Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights. All right, we are back to Bayou time. It is that time of the year again. Tropical storm Alberto in the Gulf of Mexico, many miles away, but causing some tidal fluctuations here in Terrebonne Parish. Parish President Jason Badgeron is here. Good to see you, Mr. Parish President, as always.
Yes, sir. I definitely like coming here, but definitely don't want to be here for stuff like this.
So you're right. Yeah. As long as we don't break out the stick, we can.
That's right.
All right, and Trey Middleton, of course, Terrebonne Levee and Conservation District is with us. Let's start with the parish president. Let's bring up the map, too, before, Jeff, we can, just showing the Gulf of Mexico. Quite a mess, quite a bunch of rain, just the cloud coverage very spread out in this storm. But it's still causing, you don't see the tidal surges in Terrebonne, but they're there. Cloud cover, not really prominent. But Mr. Parish President, you drove around today and you saw a lot of the parish. Give us your thoughts, if you don't mind.
Yeah, we're living with water now. And I don't think you could say that enough. In fact, a couple weeks ago, Levee District and us met and had that conversation. What is it to make sure we're doing everything we can to manage water and sometimes we do have short-term memory, some things that used to flood that don't flood anymore, and we do continue to get better, but we do have a lot of work left to do. And so, it's trying to make sure that at the end of the day, water's not getting in people's houses, cars if we can help it, but definitely making sure water. You have water in some yards. As everybody's been able to hear it and feel it all day today, the wind has been blowing hard. Mm-hmm. So we're dealing with that. We're dealing with high tide. We're dealing with factors. I think it's important to remember that, when you look at a storm like Ida, a mile here and a mile there makes a huge difference in the damage, in the wind, in the water. And so, as we go through each one of these storms, we get a little bit more information to make sure that we're making the best decisions for our residents. And then we're able to provide that information to the nation, to state, to get models updated, to make sure that we understand as we have some subsidence, as we have many issues with the water seems to be getting higher on a regular basis. And so we got to look at that, and every year make changes and adjustments to be better protected for the next opportunity.
I always tell people, this is a perfect example. Grand Isle, as the crow flies, if you go from the middle of the island east, it looks a whole lot different than the middle of the island west. So it does make a big difference on that. I want to turn to Trey, because a lot of people get confused. Certain bayous, they see the levels of the bayous, the floodgates, everybody gets confused. But I want to put something out there, because I want to let you explain the fact that, especially the Bubba Dove, you can't just open the Bubba Dove when you want. Am I correct on that? Will you explain that to the public?
Correct. All the floodgates in themselves have pretty stringent operating conditions to begin with. So if the tide's coming in too hard, if it's going out too hard, there's just certain operational parameters that we have to follow. And then there's also closure restrictions that we have to manage, like the Bubba Dove being a federal waterway. We can't just go close it. It's got to meet certain, name storm approaching, and it's a whole team that makes the decision to close the Bubba Dove. So
it's got to be a state of emergency, really. Huh?
Correct.
Isn't that the tricky part, though, especially when you're dealing with the public, and we've seen it so many times. People are getting nervous, the water's starting to come in, but you said a team of people are waiting on the word from higher ups to make that call. That's where it gets a little anxious, doesn't it?
Correct. And, our team has been out, monitoring situations, closing floodgates. We just closed Bush Canal floodgate, and in the early morning hours, we'll be closing Pointe-aux-Champs floodgate. And, so that leaves a couple of, the H&C Bubba Dove is open. But, for the most part, most of the floodgates are closed at this point.
Can you give us the water levels? And so not to the T. I mean, what have you seen with your own eyes as far as geographically in the parish? I'm not holding you to the exact levels because you don't have charts in front of you.
I think if I recall, H&C got somewhere around 2.5. If you go over towards Cocodrie, it got 3.5, and then you go over towards Bayou Terrebonne, it was similar, around that 3.5 range. So, we've been operating Humble and Bayou Terrebonne for a better part of a week now at this point, trying to manage that. That area is very susceptible with the wind, pushing the water in and getting into the Montague area. So, we use the floodgate monitoring system, the weather reports, the tide reports, and we take all that information and close gates as we can and as we need to.
And Mr. Parish President, I don't want to say that people forgot Ida, because nobody forgot Ida, but last year we had a law. So the first one comes through, it's so many miles away, but it's still pushing water. It shows us just how vulnerable we are to water, wind, and weather. We have control in certain things, we have no control in other things.
Yeah, and when you look at, we had a drought, so the water levels were lower last year than we've had for a long time. So people do kind of look at what's happened recently and think that, has that become the norm? And so as we talk about, you open certain floodgates, you close certain floodgates. Well, if you open this one, you allow water in an area, or you don't allow water in an area, or if you don't open this one, you have that same problem. So we have to look at how the water's flowing. We have to look at which way the winds are coming in. And on the systems that they have at the levee district and the parish systems, we have gauges. We're able to remotely monitor heights and understand what's like inside the system, what it's like outside the system, and us work together to make sure we're managing that water and moving that water as best we can.
Yeah, we're looking at our live shots. We have live cameras, of course, all over. We deploy a lot of them for hurricanes. But Trey, let me come back to you because, a lot of it comes from knowledge when we're talking about closing the floodgates and which ones are closed, which ones are stay open, when you're allowed to do it. Mm-hmm. But there's not a computer or artificial intelligence telling you when to close each one and when to open them. You sort of got to go by a little team effort, try to figure out when do we open them and when do we close them.
Right, and that's years of experience of our team, and being able to have that data that we get from the monitoring stations and go back and look at that data and learn from it and figure out the best way to do it. Being such a wide, broad system, just because something's coming, the water may be coming in on one end of the parish, but going out on the other end of the parish. So, each storm is different.
And is that what you saw today? Being some areas are draining, some areas are coming in?
Correct.
Just for the public?
Correct.
Isn't that amazing? That can happen in a parish. Of course, geographically, you're right. We saw in Grand Isle, one side gets devastated, the other's okay. But it's amazing how the wind comes in one place and is blowing out in the other place. And does that cause y'all headaches? I guess is the easiest way to put it.
It can, yes, it can. It can be tricky. Mother Nature's tricky.
Yeah, hurry, close this gate, open this gate, or whatever. Now, it's a named storm, so I think Tony had a promise from the Corps way back when it first named storm in the Gulf. He had some parameters. Maybe he could do some things with the levees.
Well, so the Corps actually, in talking about that, the Corps is actually opening bids next week on the Reach A, which is that last segment in Dularge to be constructed. So they're opening bids. We're hoping that, latter part of this year, September-ish, that they'll actually get equipment on the ground and get started with that.
Yeah. And let me go back to the parish president. I'm not going to say any storm like this is good. Somebody's getting a lot of rain, somebody's getting a lot of surge, but isn't this a wake-up call? It sort of wakes people up, puts them on high alert, and I'm not saying that lightly or not saying that for humor. I think it gets people on their toes and it gets them ready for the hurricane season and makes them realize hey, we're in hurricane season.
Yeah, I mean, we're, you know, we've had our hurricane drills and a room full of people to talk about all the possible things we have to deal with. You know, in fact, I was on the phone to sheriff first thing this morning talking about where water was rising and causing things to float, and they put out extra patrol to make sure the property is protected. And so, you know, it does allow us to make sure, you know, we have our protocols in order, anything we got to adjust. But again, we're continually working to make sure that we take in as much information as we can. You know, we have a couple of things we're working on with some funding from CDBGDR that's going to be a wastewater and stormwater study. And so, you know, as we have models and as we have everything we're working with FEMA right now, we're going to be submitting information to them to work on the flood maps. But as the parish evolves, as we lose some land from Ida, you know, every time we have a circumstance, a storm, we have to go back and reassess how's the landscape changed and what do we have to take into account for this time that we didn't have to last time. And that it's a continuous battle that we are fighting every day.
Yeah, Trey, let me ask you, just in viewing the areas today, what was the areas that, I mean, anything outside the floodgate pretty much looks all the same, but any area looked a little worse than others to you?
No, they had a little bit of water in yards and stuff in Cocodrie, north of the floodgate. Once the floodgate was closed, that quickly receded. And then over in Dulac, Shrimpers Row, had some water. A little bit of water in Pointe-aux-Chenes. You know, mainly just crossing the road going into the drainage system, so that was easily managed. But like I said earlier, we'll be closing Pointe-aux-Chenes early in the morning when the tide goes to change, because we anticipate probably one more little spike of tide, and then I mean it should.
That's what I was going to ask you. The tide numbers. What are they according to you? I mean,
I don't know.
Tonight it'll come in.
I think tonight's going to come in. We'll probably have another higher range, because we're still in that high range, week long or so high tide range. So I think it's going to come in. Hopefully not as bad as it did today. And then, you know, come Friday, we'll be looking at, you know, what gates we can start opening, and then we'll get ready, geared up to do it all over again.
And y'all been talking to people all day. Are people, do you sense people are nervous? Are they pretty calm? Because we've been through Ida, and I know from our end, once you've seen the monster, it's sort of hard to get psyched up. It's like if you beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 70s, you're not scared of anybody at that point. But are people nervous when you were talking to them today?
Yeah, I think people are nervous, and you know, they ask questions about the amount of work that's been done. Shouldn't this stuff be fixed? But when you look at, you can't close the Bubba Dove, and that's why we're going to have the lock put in there. That lock's project, I think, is 3 years. You know, we're going to be fighting with moving water around until we get some more projects completed, and it's going to get better. And then we're going to, you know, we might have a situation. I know we're having to raise some levees in the Brady Road area that have subsided. So, you know, it's constant inspection. It's constant reading data, looking at water. And again, when a storm comes in, it coming in 100 miles this way or 50 miles that way will make a difference as we push forward through the hurricane
And you got to
season.
work closely with the levee districts and also constant communication. But I guess the saving grace on this one too is going in west, but we could have had the tidal surge and the 12 inches of rain if it would have come north. So I guess I'm always looking for the good side of a storm. But with that said, we might have another low developing shortly after. So like I said, this was a wake-up call. I know y'all talked to a lot of important people. Any indications at this point, or is it just too early to tell where the next low?
It's too early to tell. I understand it's going to be a little more north, but you know, keep an eye on the weather channels and of course with you guys with the stick. But
well, we don't break out the stick unless we know where it's going. Yeah, but these tropical storms are hard to predict. They really are.
You get some that push water, you get some that are a lot of rain, you know, and so the important part, and we just released a video on Facebook and rolling out through our other channels that talks about hurricane preparation and making sure you have a plan. Don't wait till the storm's in the Gulf to get everything together. Make sure you have your kits out. So just, you know, have people go check that out and make sure they're prepared. Get a plan. Make sure your family's all on the same page. And look, one of the things that you could see, especially with the sheriff doing the stuff he's doing today, a lot of people worry about evacuating, that they can't come back, and we have proven we're going to let people back. But we're going to take care of property. But we need residents to take care of their families and take care of themselves, because that's, you have insurance, you have the sheriff's office and other law enforcement offices protecting property. So it's going to be important that if we do have a big storm come this way, evacuate, make sure your family's safe, and we're going to let you right back in to check on your property.
I've heard a lot of people tell me that that's right. They want to stay there. They protected their home when things were going bad. If they'd have been gone, they couldn't. Some people tell me at lunch today they were nailing their door shut because the winds were pushing them open. But if they'd have been gone, all that water would have been in the house or whatever. And I always tell people too in these storms, and Trey, you've seen this so many times, when those storms start in the Gulf, it's like a push barge. Mm-hmm. And they push water. But then all of a sudden they decide they're going to go west. But that water's still pushed. And it's like, that would be like a big tugboat coming down the Intracoastal and it just stops. The wave's still going. So it's hard to stop momentum.
Correct.
I guess. All right, so I know y'all have a handle on it. We'll continue to watch this thing as it goes in. And, Mr. Parish President and Trey, if anything develops, just let us know and we'll get it to the people. But good luck, and I hope this is the last time I see y'all for hurricane season.
I agree with
Can
that.
we pray on that?
Yes, I do every day. So, yes, sir.
Thank y'all so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a break. A lot more here on Bayou Time. Of course, this will be on Facebook and YouTube. And we thank you for joining us, and we wish everybody good luck here in the communities.
At Barker Honda in Houma, the summer is here, and so are the summer sizzling savings. Hot deals on every new Honda and pre-owned car, truck, van, or SUV in stock. Find new Honda Pilot from only $39,987 or $399 a month. Or take your pick of brand new Honda CR-V at only $299 a month or Honda Accord $259 a month. Wow, summer is here, and so are our lowest prices of the year at Barker Honda in Houma. And remember, it's better at BarkerHonda.com.